Student, social, and environmental organizations in Chile are set to march to demand the resignation of President Sebastián Piñera after his involvement in the Pandora Papers scandal. High officials of Mexico and the United States will discuss an agenda that intends to solve the migratory crisis. A powerful explosion in a Shiite mosque in northern Afghanistan left tens of casualties in a second such attack in less than a week. Hello, welcome to From the South. On Friday, the Confederation of Chilean Students, the heads of the Student Federation of the Chile Catholic University, as well as other social and environmental organizations, are set to march in the capital, Santiago. The event seeks to demand a leave of office of President Sebastián Piñera due to the head of state's ties in the Pandora Papers corruption scandal and his use of the country's resources on his sole account, deeming him unfit to leave the nation under moral scrutiny. At the same time, Chilean justice announced the beginning of an investigation against the president carried out by the lawyer Luis Rondon, where Piñera and his family's role in the Dominga mining project scandal will be looked into, as well as the money hidden in the Virgin Islands. More information is coming to light about the scandal regarding the Colombian military forces and the Ministry of Defense, who proved and carried out a new aerial bombardment against a National Liberation Army camp in which 4 miners were found on the Department of Chocó. After the revelation made by the senator of the Alternative Democratic Pool, Ivan Cepeda, who accused the security portfolio of having concealed said attack and its results. Another document was released with the names of 2 of the young men murdered in the bombing. The information collected by the Institute of Legal Medicine reported that the victims already identified were 17-year-old John Alexander Gañán Murcia and 13-year-old Jose Hurtado Moreno. According to Senator Cepeda, the minister did not inform public opinion that there were adolescents among those killed, and that is why he requested the intervention of the National Institute of Legal Medicine, which confirmed the death of the miners.
Through a request I made to the Institute of Legal Medicine, it has been established that in the bombing carried out by the military forces in the Department of Chocó against a group of the National Liberation Army, of the 8 people who died in that bombing, 4 were adolescents, and one of them was a 13-year-old minor. This horrifying fact shows a double reality. On the one hand, the forced recruitment of minors continues in the absence of a peace policy from this government, and on the other hand, the military forces continue to use disproportionate methods such as bombings against groups in which there are minors, adolescents, girls and boys. This is clearly prohibited, both the forced recruitment of minors as well as this type of indiscriminate methods by the international law, and that is why today I have addressed a communication to the United Nations, highlighting this horrible situation that is unfortunately happening in the country.
Politicians and leaders whose secret dealings were revealed in the Pandora Papers are facing increasing criticism and scrutiny among governments around the world that pledge investigations in the wake of the biggest offshore leak. In Paraguay, former President Horacio Cartes amended his public disclosure forms to add an offshore company he owned but didn't declare during his presidency between 2013 and 2018, following questions from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and its partners. On a single day, the family of the former president created 3 paper companies in Panama. 2 of them appeared in the name of his sister and one in the name of the former head of state and his children. The firms were created after U.S. money laundering investigation became known. Although in all the documents sent by the Cartes family, it is repeated that the offshore would be used for the purchase of the real estate. Only one day detailed that it was an apartment in Miami valued at more than $1 million.
Because in his first sworn statement, Horacio Manuel Cartes provides false information, hides information. He does this in 2012 in his sworn statement to run for the presidency of the Republic. Then he once again delivers his sworn statement, again providing false data, in his sworn statement 15 days after assuming the presidency, and then at the end of his mandate, and then 15 days later he does it again. That is to say, 3 times he has presented false sworn statements. He has concealed information.
Venezuelan security forces shut down a criminal organization that ran in the western border state of Apure. Venezuelan Attorney General Tarek William Saab announced the arrest of 6 officials for their involvement in a criminal organization dedicated to providing false documents to foreigners. 2 of them, members of the National Electoral Council, and 4 officials of the Administrative Service of Identification, Migration, and Foreigners. The prosecutor added that in this same procedure, 2 Colombian citizens carrying false identity documents were arrested, and they could be part of a criminal organization. Both citizens confessed that they paid $1,000 to obtain the documents.
Again, the bad example of some individuals who, from Colombia, come to interfere in the peace of Venezuela. Also, apart from these Colombian criminals, there are Mexicans and U.S. citizens linked to criminal, paramilitary, and drug trafficking organizations. In addition, 2 Colombian citizens were detained. Said individuals were found with false IDs, and it is presumed that they are part of a criminal organization.
And the Center for Analysis and Research on Human Rights revealed that the kidnapping cases trebled in Haiti, immersed in a deep political, social, and economic crisis. The organization pointed out that from July to September alone, 221 cases were registered, 117 of them in September, while since early 2021, 628 kidnappings for ransom were reported. At the beginning of the week, the Protestant sector organized a general strike to complain about the phenomenon after the murder of a pastor following a kidnapping attempt in the above-mentioned month and the abduction of another religious leader last Sunday. Economic, educational, and public administration activities came to a standstill. However, the government didn't assume a stance on the strike or on the increase in this insecurity. This United Nations representative in Haiti, Helena Lima, warned before the organization's Security Council that the armed gangs had extended their control to large stretches the capital, while the economic and political crisis continues. We'll be right back after this very short break. Welcome back. High officials of Mexico and the United States met on Friday in the Mexican Chancellor's headquarters to set in motion an agenda that intends to solve the migratory crisis. The bilateral meeting happens as Antony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, concludes his visit to the Latin American country in talks with President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. This is in the strategies that seek to stop the overflow of thousands of migrants of Central America who pass through Mexico to get to the United States. Recently, Mexican authorities said that poverty, inequality, violence, and discrimination are several causes that prompt the massive crusades from citizens from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. The Mexican delegation will try to reach a sustainable agreement with the United States by proposing a regional development plan. A U.S. federal judge put a stop to the enforcement of the Texas law known as Senate Bill 8 that bans abortions after 6 weeks. Citizens in Houston reacted to this decision.
Decision is a good decision because although I'm pro-life, I have my religious belief, that prevent me from aborting. But I believe that people should have the choice to whether to terminate their pregnancies or not.
I think that all women should have the right to choose what they would like to do with their bodies. So I think that it's a good thing that it's being proposed that maybe the law that was previously talked about be banned.
We can't go back that way where we're having a lot of women lose their lives because they can't make to have a procedure that is in the hands of professionals. That it's okay. So, I mean, I'm okay with what the judge said so far.
Poland's constitutional court ruled that Polish laws have a supremacy over those of the European Union in areas where they clash, a decision likely to embolden the country's right-wing government and worsen its already troubled relationship with the EU. The Constitutional Tribunal held that some provisions of the treaties bind the EU members and some rulings by the 27 nation bloc's high court conflict with Poland's constitution and warned EU institutions not to act beyond the scope of their competencies by interfering with Poland's judiciary. The tribunal initiated its review of law supremacy on a motion from Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, whose demand came after the European Court of Justice ruled in July that Poland's new regulations for appointing judges to the Supreme Court could violate EU law. The tribunal majority said that Poland's EU membership since 2004 did not give the European Supreme Court a legal authority and that no state authority in the country would consent to an outside limitation of its powers. In the meantime, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen vowed on Friday to firmly defend the primacy of EU law. Calling the European Union a community of values and laws, von der Leyen said that the EU will uphold the founding principles of their union's legal order. The EU top representative expressed concern by the developments and instructed the Commission and its executive to analyze the words of a court decision thoroughly and swiftly. Billionaire mogul and current Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, Andrej Babiš, was sworn as the most likely to win the elections that began Friday in that European country, despite his name coming up in the recent Pandora Papers tax haven scandal. Babiš, whose fortune consists of his media and chemical industry empire, seeks a re-election at the head of the ANO party that was founded by himself. ANO, which translates to yes in Czech, has a program consisting of center-like policies and is one of the organizations which criticize being a part of the European Union. Babiš's support is marked by the polls with 30%, while his closest rival, representing the center-right-wing Spolu party, stands behind by 10%. Promising a tight run due to ongoing alliance negotiations. Results of the election are expected for Saturday afternoon. Babiš's name came up on the Pandora Papers showing after accounts and businesses are not registered in the formal channels of his country. The Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to journalists Maria Ressa and Dmitry Muratov for their long-standing efforts to safeguard freedom of expression in the Philippines and Russia. Ressa is the chief executive officer of Rappler, a news outlet critical of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte's administration, while Muratov has the independent Russian newspaper Novaya Gazeta. The Nobel Committee called the pair as representatives of all journalists who stand up for this ideal. The editors were chosen out of 329 candidates. We have more stories coming up after there's a financial break. But first, let's watch a video on the sexual scandals in which a Catholic Church has been involved. Abuses against minors that have led to planned investigations around the world. Welcome back. On Friday, a powerful explosion and a most frequented by religious minority group in northern Afghanistan left tens of casualties and the second such attack in less than a week. The blast occurred in a Shiite mosque in Kunduz province during the weekly Friday prayer service at the Gozar-e-Ziyadat Mosque, when members of the Shiite religious minority typically go in large numbers for worship. Taliban chief spokesman Zabiullah Muhajir said the Shiite mosque was the target and that a large number of worshippers were killed and wounded. As Taliban reports only 60 deaths, but other local sources affirmed there was about 100 killed. The cause of the blast was not immediately clear. Despite no group has yet claimed responsibility for the blast, the Taliban leadership has been grappling with a growing threat from the local Islamic State affiliate known as the Islamic State in Khorasan. On Sunday, October 3rd, a similar bomb attack was carried out at a Kabul mosque, killing 5 civilians. The arrival of U.S. forces with truckloads of weapons, ammunition, and logistical equipment to the illegal bases in the Syrian province of Hazaka was once again reported. A convoy of 56 trucks and vehicles carrying weapons and logistical equipment, along with 8 Hummer armored vehicles, entered the province under the protection of the Syrian Democratic Forces mercenary militia. Authorities warned that the convoy entered through the illegal border crossing of Al-Walid with Iraq and headed towards the illegal U.S. bases in the areas controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces. The elections in Iraq unfolded in a climate of tight security measures and logistical difficulties. The balloting happens with 120,000 displaced people casting votes in harsh transport conditions, as they have no walk great distances towards the stations. Over 1 million security forces have already attended the turnout process in an election being held a year early, due to a protest movement back in 2019 that criticized privileged sectors of society for the unemployment and deplorable public services. Over 3,240 candidates are in the running that has seen boycott attempts from discontent citizens. Romania is one of the poorest countries in the European Union and has one of the region's weakest vaccination campaigns against COVID-19. It suffers from a spike in deaths due to the virus, as a fourth wave of the disease affects the population. The main Institute of Infectious Diseases in Romania runs at 110% of capacity, with patients in hallways due to the waiting for vacancy, sometimes after previous occupants die. On Thursday, there were over 14,000 new cases recorded within 24 hours in the 19 million inhabitants country. On Friday, authorities reported over 300 deaths. Interior Minister Lucian Bud said that 1,600 Romanians wait for a place in intensive care, and what senior officials labeled as a health catastrophe.
I had numerous opportunities to get vaccinated, but I didn't do it. It is what it is. Until it doesn't affect you personally, you don't realize. Now I'm willing to get vaccinated yesterday, to put it lightly. We should get this message out there. I've met vaccinated patients who went home within 4 days while I've struggled. It's a terrible disease. I was one of those who thought the vaccine was not good, but I'm telling you now that it was a mistake on my part, an awful choice. And I'm honestly telling you that once I get over this sickness, I will go and get the vaccine, taking full responsibility.
And Russia awaits the results of the negotiations on mutual recognition of COVID-19 vaccination certificates between Moscow and the European Union. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said talks are ongoing despite misunderstandings on both parts. The official stressed that the bilateral recognition of the immunization is extremely important and should be formalized. Recently, the Russian Ministry of Health submitted to the European Council mission the necessary documents for the mutual recognition of COVID certificates. We've come to the end of this news brief, but first we invite you to watch a video on Che Guevara, who was assassinated in Bolivia on October 8, 1967. You can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English and also on our Twitter accounts at TeleSUR TV and TeleSUR English. I'm Fray Gomez. Thank you for watching.
Nada legal me ata a Cuba, solo lazos de otra clase que no se pueden romper como los nombramientos. Otras tierras del mundo reclaman el concurso de mis modestos esfuerzos.